So next up is going to be Nancy Beck, and she's going to talk about our predictive toxicology project. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Okay, okey doke. Let's see, am I going the, oh, there we go. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Beck, as Troy said, and I'm gonna be telling you about our project called PredicTox, which, as its name suggests, is a predictive toxicology project. More specifically, trying to do a better job with predicting adverse events associated with drugs. So it's another data science project, like IMEDS, but whereas IMEDS is a little more focused on detecting adverse events in observational data, this is focused on predicting adverse events. Don't have a whole lot of time to get into details, but what I'm hoping to get you excited about is the approaches we're taking here, because they're a little bit different than the traditional approaches used to assess drug safety. We're trying to pull in engineering and computer science and approaches from physics to really bring new thinking to this area and develop some really interesting models. Again, a lot of methods work involved here, like IMEDS. We don't have all the tools we need to do this. It's challenging, but I think the payoff could be really big, and it's worth, we thought it was worth embarking on this challenge. So what is PredicTox? It's a public-private partnership, and you'll see, oh, I don't have a, thought maybe I had a pointer at the bottom. It's a public-private partnership. You'll see our partners at the bottom. Our current partners, we're looking for more, so anyone in the audience interested in joining the project, talk to me afterwards. Led by Reagan-Udall, and I said aimed at improving drug safety assessment. And the objective is to apply a systems biology-based approach. So you'll hear a little bit more about that in the upcoming slides to better understand the mechanisms underlying adverse events. So how do you go from taking a drug to having an adverse event? What are the molecular networks to the tissue to the organ level that ends up manifesting as an adverse event? So better understanding that so you can develop predictive models to prevent these incidents from occurring in patients. And a large part of this program, which we have significantly partnered with FDA on, is to help move drug safety assessment from a reactive to a more predictive and proactive approach. Let's see. Okay, so what is systems biology? Systems biology is really computational and mathematical modeling of biological systems. It focuses on complex interactions within systems. So how do pieces of a system interact with each other, and how does a change on one part of a system affect the system as a whole? It's a little more of an engineering approach than you usually see in regulatory science or biomedical research, for that matter. What we're trying to do is take a holistic view of the whole human system, as opposed to the more traditional reductionist approach that's used in biomedical and clinical research. So this diagram shows sort of what happens from taking the drug to the patient, these levels here: molecular, cellular, tissue, organ, patient. The systems approach tries to look across all of that and how those events are connected, whereas the traditional reductionist approach, and I'm not criticizing the reductionist approach. I was trained as a reductionist, so I appreciate it. But what that really does is look at each of those segments, sort of drill down really deep without necessarily trying to make the connections across. So that's what we're trying to do here, to get a better understanding of the mechanism across these layers. Okay, so again, what we're really trying to do here is link across these scales of complexity from the molecular level to the patient level, from the drug to the adverse event that occurs. And so this really requires multi-scale modeling to connect across these events. And what I mean there is building models to capitulate all sorts of processes and events at each of those levels, and then connecting those at that particular level, and then connecting across the level. So this is not not been done a lot in biology per se, and part of that, as opposed to other fields like engineering, computer science, meteorology, that's a good example with predicting weather. Here we're predicting adverse events. It's been used less commonly in biology, but recent technological and scientific advances, the revolution in omics, imaging, have made these approaches possible here. But we're only really beginning to apply them to drug safety and risk assessment, and PredicTox as one of the first programs to kind of apply on the scale that we're talking about here. So how are we going to do this? We're starting with a proof of concept pilot where we've identified one drug, class of drugs, and one type of adverse event to really focus in on to build out these models. So here we're looking at tyrosine kinase inhibitors, which is a class of oncology therapy, and a particular cardiac adverse event, left ventricular dysfunction. And so we're hoping that this works really well and we can apply this broadly, and FDA will use these types of approaches to look at all sorts of classes of drugs and types of adverse events. We plan to conduct the pilot in 2 major phases. First, we need to gather all this data across all these scales and pull them into a knowledge management platform, or a sort of like the IMED's laboratory in the cloud. So we'll build this platform. It'll house clinical data, preclinical, animal farm tox data, molecular data, again, across all those levels. And then once that is together in an integrated fashion, you can start to do research. And it's going to be a valuable tool for people doing hypothesis-driven research, whether you're a clinical researcher, a basic researcher, translational research. I think this data is going to be a really valuable data set for people to answer interesting questions there, because a lot of it is going to be data from pharmaceutical companies that people wouldn't otherwise have access to. And then beyond that, we now have this nice set of information across all these scales so that people can begin to build these multi-scale models and do this methods research. And also this hypothesis-driven research results, that data will feed into the, into that data warehouse to inform the methods research. Okay, so this is sort of a schematic that we already worked through. And so, okay, while put it all together, do your research, and you've got to improve patient safety. Well, how does that happen? We feel that these models are by having this better mechanistic understanding, you can do a better job of designing preclinical screens when you're doing the drug development to identify potential problems later on. You can develop better clinical diagnostics because you know what's going on and exactly where to look. Better treatment strategies to mitigate potential adverse events. Even better understanding of an individual patient's risk. And potentially, this ties back to IMEDS and Sentinel. The mechanistic insight you get here could help you evaluate signals that come up in Sentinel. So is there biological plausibility? If you have models like this, you could go back and look or run a simulation and see if that signal really makes sense and is worth further investigation. Okay, so where we're at, we're securing data agreements with companies. In the meantime, we're gathering public data. We're building this knowledge platform. We have a computational modeling workshop planned in the fall to start to get all these folks from other disciplines interested in helping us solve this problem, and we've begun presenting at a lot of different scientific conferences to get the word out about the project. So how to get involved? We need data, we need expertise, funding, other resources, pretty much any way you would like to interact. If you'd like more information, talk to me afterwards. And there is also a great infographic, which JPA, you're in the audience today, helped us develop, and it's great. So please check that out. And thank you.